This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Our goal with our videos is to empower you to be able to do the repairs on your own and save a whole lot of money and also get that great feeling of having fixed it by yourself. Today we have a Kobe vent hood that's really noisy in one of the two fans, the one on the right, and this is a picture of the bearings kind of rusted. Here's the model number for this Kobe hood. It comes from Japan. It's a pretty nice hood. It's usually very quiet. I'm going to take a look at it. I took off this little plate underneath here which catches oil. I'm going to take out one Phillips head screw that lets this grill come off. And then I'll take off this little cup here and see how this one sounds. This one I think is okay. These are the turbine fins. Spinning it sounds good. It sounds smooth.
It's good.
So I think that one's all right. There was a roof problem and some water came down and actually dripped out of this one on the right here. And then ever since it's been pretty noisy. So I think maybe the bearing got affected by the rainwater. Might have rusted it. So I just want to take a look, see if I can lubricate it. So I'll pull off that little cup. Yeah, this one sounds a little grindy. This one sounds good on the left, smooth. On the right, a little grindy, and also doesn't spin as well. Maybe too much friction. So we need to take a look at what's going on. So we're going to turn off the breaker, cut the power, and we're going to take out these little screws that are holding on the bottom plate. I think there is 6 of them, 6 or 8. Once you get those screws out, this whole plate will come off. It'll actually reveal some stickers that have the model number, and it's going to allow us to remove the motor to take a better look at it. It's just a series of screws we got to take out. So you can spin them all out. I sped up the camera here a little bit. You may want to get another hand to help you hold as you get the last screws out. You could even tape it though. If you're by yourself, tape it up on the front and back. So when you remove the screws, it won't fall. And then you could remove the tape and then that whole panel will come off. It slips down. We're interested on this motor, so we're going to use our pliers to remove the fan assembly by turning this bolt to the left. You can pull the whole fan down, and that's going to reveal the motor. There's the motor shaft. So you could grab the motor shaft and spin it. You could also turn it on and just listen to it and see if you're getting the grinding sound from that motor. In this case, it was pretty clear that was the troublemaker. It even looked a little rusted up there. There's actually 2 bearings on the motor, one down where my fingers are, and then one higher up at the top of the motor. So I'm going to pull the motor out. I'm going to remove 3 Phillips head screws that hold it, and then I'm going to remove these screws out of the back. These are on there pretty tight. They're Phillips head. So try to find a Phillips head screwdriver that'll fit. I think it's a Phillips 1 instead of a Phillips 2 because they're a bit smaller. And once you get them all out, you'll need to tap the case with a small hammer. I'm also going to try just lubricating this affected bearing by turning the motor upside down and letting gravity feed the oil in there without removing the case to see if that may help. So once I put it in there, I'll spin it to help distribute the oil. I just got a feeling that the
There you go.
bearing sat in that rainwater too long and may have rusted. When I turn on the power, it spins fine, but it's just still noisy. One on the left sounds really good. So I'll cut the power and then do a little more disassembly. It was interesting as I was taking this apart, a lot of water just poured out of it, so I think this thing took on some water and it just stayed. So I'm holding the front of the case and whacking the back of it on the little arms that come out to loosen it. And then I can get a standard head screwdriver in there to gently pry the two case parts apart from each other. So you can actually get this motor from Kobe. If you have your model number, you can tell them you just need the motor. See all the water coming out? And they'll send you a new one. In this case, I thought probably I could repair this by directly lubricating the bearing, but I think this one's just too far gone, so I'll probably end up just replacing the motor, which is pretty easy to do, but they're a bit expensive. So we're just splitting the case here using a standard head screwdriver to pull these two halves apart, and then we can get in there and see what damage the water's done. Might be something that can be still salvaged. There's the one bearing that's essentially located at the top. That looks like it's in good shape. It spins really good. It doesn't make any noise at all. So that aspect of the motor's doing great. So if I can pull off this cap, I can then tap the motor shaft with a hammer, and that's going to take out the central part. So we can take a look at the other bearing to see how it's doing. So I'm just going to give it a tap. And it's funny, there's still water coming out of this thing, so it's really got wet. Surprising that it even spun. There we go. So we'll take a look in there, and we're going to wipe off the motor shaft. Might even use a wire brush to get some of the corrosion off of that. I'm going to reach in and clean with a paper towel the moisture that still exists on that bearing. Wipe off some of the rust. I think the rust, though, has permeated the interior part of the bearing where the ball bearings are, so I don't think that's going to be salvageable even with lubricant. Sometimes you can get to it before the rust has done too much damage, but those are type of metal that oxidizes really fast. And I think the bearings tend to be they're water resistant, but they're probably not water tight, so a little bit of water can sneak in there. I'm going to put some lubricant in there though, and hopefully let that permeate, and then I'll spin it around a few times using the motor shaft, see if I can work the lubricant in from this angle. I'll put it back together and we'll see if the noise persists. Again, if it does, it's not too big of a deal. We can just replace the motor. So I'm just working that bearing back and forth, and just letting the lubricant move around inside the bearing. Putting the motor shaft back in from the other side just so I can spin it, get the bearing to move more. A little more oil. So at the least we've stopped the corrosion, I think, with the amount of oil that's in there. I don't think it's going to be able to continue rusting, but it may be too far gone in terms of getting rid of the noise. It'll still work. It'll still spin and work to ventilate the kitchen, but probably too noisy. So I'm just going to push the armature back in, and then we can go ahead and put the back piece back on, put it all back together. So there is a little spring that goes in the base here that I'm about to put back on. I have to add back in. And that just puts a little forward tension on that bearing. So there's a space for it. I just got to move it in there, put the little spring back in, and then put the two halves of the case together, and then I'll add the screws and get them nice and tight. Just gonna wipe off a little extra oil. All right, so we got our little spring in position on the base. Gonna put the back half over the incoming power wire assembly and just start to push it shut nice and tight. And I'll give it some gentle taps with the hammer around the perimeter to help seat the back piece in. Mainly just squeezing it together helps. Okay, we're going to add the screws back in the back, get them nice and tight. And we got that done. I'm going to go turn on the power at the breaker and just listen to the motor, see how it sounds. Still pretty noisy, so I think I'm going to have to replace it. I'll go ahead and put this motor back in for now. Just put those screws back in. If your motor is making some noise, though, I would attempt the same procedure and put a little oil on the bearing and see if that cures it, because it could save you a lot of money. This one's just got rusted too much, though. All right, we're going to put the fan assembly back up on the motor shaft. We have to line up the flat aspect of the motor shaft where it meets the nut. We'll get that tight. We've got the plate back up there with all those 8 screws. We're going to put these little fan guards back in. They're held in by one Phillips head screw. There we go. Here's one for the left side. We're adding the oil cup back onto the guard, and that's a pretty cool device. It helps to catch any grease and oil that may collect during cooking so that it doesn't drip back down onto the food. Hook that up on its clip and then put in the screw to hold it. So thanks so much for watching. That worked good. Thanks so much for watching our video. We really appreciate your support. And when you get a chance, please press the subscribe button below so you can be subscribed, and also the notification bell so we can send you more videos about appliance repair. Please also give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. If you really liked the video and it really helped you, please press this new applaud button and you can show your support and also get a nice clapping hands for your video. Thanks again.